you know, it's so funny because a lot of times I go online to the 5 a.m. club just because I recognize that sometimes when Rhonda goes on, it takes a while for other people. It's so funny because to recognize tune in. And so I tune in just so she won't be sitting there talking to herself or by herself. And not because most of the time at 5 a.m. I'm out in the yard doing my workout. Come on. I need to help my little doggy. Come here. Over here. Ugh. You know my dog is deaf. Say hi, GD. My dog is deaf, and so I do hand motions to kind of talk to her. So it sometimes takes her a minute to comply. Yeah, it takes her sometimes if she complies at all. But I think that her not being able to hear is partially an excuse for her to ignore me at times. Anyway. So yeah, I go on sometimes in the morning because I recognize that Rhonda may be sitting there talking to herself for the 15 minutes that she is online. And because of that, I go online. Even if I'm not able to sit there and listen to her, I am usually doing my workout. And so like sometimes my workout consists of, like this morning, I walked up and down the driveway, and I went out there and measured it at one time. And I think it's like 30 times up and down my driveway. Like if I walk up and down my driveway and back. So anyway, I'm in the process of doing that kind of thing. So I sit my phone down and I listen to her, but I only hear her when I'm walking past at a certain time. So that's what I do at 5 a.m. I've been intermingling that with the jump rope challenge that I'm trying to work my way up to. There was LaShawn put up a post about doing 1,000 jumps within a certain amount of time as a challenge. And it's a 7-day challenge. Y'all, I don't know if you've jump rope lately, but it's kick butt just to do 100. I'm just trying to say. And so in the morning times, I will, turn Rhonda on and listen while I'm out there trying to do my workout and trying to jump rope and all that other stuff. There she is. Hey there, Stephanie.
Hey, y'all.
How are you?
Girl, I'm tired already. It's just 7:40, 7:24.
What you doing tired?
I tried to run. I just don't run. So I tried to run today, and so there was this like shooting pain up my calf. And so I ended up walking, and then I went to the crack house. Got to do that. And and then I came home, and my mama had me putting up fences.
Oh, wow.
So I put up a couple of fences for her.
And what kind of fences?
Some metal fence. I don't know what they're technically called, but they're these metal. Had to have on gloves and unwind the fence.
Oh, that's what I just put up. Yeah, the chicken wire fence.
No, it's not the chicken wire. The chicken wire is what's up, but she wants something taller and heavy.
Oh.
So she thought it was 50 feet. It didn't go all the way around. So that's going to be between her and my father today and getting them. But they got this really cool border that my dad bought piping for, cut it to size, and the border has little holes. And they got a really cute little makeshift area, because before we had the chicken wire last year for the pots. They have a giant pot garden.
Mm-hmm.
And, the chicken wire is not tall enough. So anyway, I had to help her put that up. And my mom is an anxious soul. So, and I know that I'm kind of like my father until I get my buttons pushed in. I'm a different somebody. So I sometimes I can tell that my like, hey, I got this, just relax. No. I know it bothers her because as a kid, she could be rushing me around. And today I'm just like, okay, well, you're going to have to wait a second, chill out. You're good. Okay. So I know I said, I think I got to go to my broadcast. She was like, oh, okay. Yeah, because I don't get all excited about that kind of stuff. I got another stuff going on in my life right now. But yeah, so it was good. I was glad.
You had an excuse to check out. Huh? I said you was glad you had an excuse to check out.
Yeah, because I can feel the difficulty it is for my mom to not say, well, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? And she knows that if she starts that, I can walk away today. I'm not your captain, do that to my father. You can't do that to me today because I will drop it. Like, I'm not doing this because I have a brain too. And I have an idea as well. And if you ask for my help, I'm going to give it, but let me do mine. I'm not married to it. Let me do it my way. And then if you want to change it, I won't have my feelings hurt. But so I think I could, holding on to not being able to give directions when you think you have the answers, I could feel her like, oh God. Yeah. So it was a break for her too.
Oh, cool. It's interesting though that you're bringing that up because that's right in line. So yeah, that's right in line with what we're talking about, I guess, today, in part. But that, it is interesting how after a while that there's a shift in the power structure. And I'm not even going to say that didn't happen long ago, but sometimes it takes, the brain has to remember, right, that I'm no longer in this subordinate role that you're trying to put me in. And so you need to recognize, I used to watch South Park every once in a while.
I love South Park.
Right.
Don't judge me. I do. I love it.
I don't watch it all the time, but so when I do, that doggone, I don't know what that character's name was, but he was
Cartman,
yeah. He was like, respect my authority. I think that's so funny. Like, yeah, you gotta respect me, doggone it.
No, it's funny. It's funny because there's 3 kids and everybody have their experience different. My brother just be like, "No, Mom, I'm not helping you," or "I'll do it by myself. I don't need you out here with me."
Right.
And I'm more like, "I'm gonna do it with you, but we're not doing that."
Yeah.
And then my sister, she's just like my mom, so
okay,
she'll just be like, "Mama." So it's just it's interesting, and because of what I do for a living, is even more interesting to me to watch how the 3 of us handle our parents coming from a place, same household, same.
Yeah.
So that's my morning.
That was one of the things that I used to try to get my siblings to see, that my dad had this tendency of doing what I used to call gotcha things, right? So it would be like he would be looking for your buttons to push. And so today I can't get you on the why ain't you married thing. Maybe I'll push a why don't you get, he'll say something about a career. I saw a sign that said McDonald's was hiring. And you look at him like, why on earth does that on me? So he would just do stuff just to push your buttons. It wasn't even as if, but if he could activate your anger, it was as if it gave him a charge. And so I would try to,
brother accuses my mother of that.
Yeah.
I don't experience her that way, but he is convinced that my mom is like that, especially with my father. I just think she's just an anxious soul. She's just worried. She's got something to be anxious about, but and she, the language that they use is whatever. But yeah, my brother accused my mom of being a button pusher. He to this day. And
yeah. And so what I used to try
I
to
shouldn't say accused. I should say that's how he experiences her.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I tried to explain to them. I was like, this is in part what he gets a charge out of. And if you respond to him in that way, it's as if he's getting some kind of payoff. So I said, just look at it like, ooh, you got me, Dad, or there's a zinger. But don't let it, don't let it activate you, because once you get activated, then there's this an increase and this acceleration, and then there's the storming out of the house, and I ain't got to deal with this.
Because the brain wants to do something with that powerless feeling.
Yeah.
The brain immediately starts to go into like, okay, what can I do with that? Because I can't knock you out. Can't cuss you out. So I need to do something.
Right. Right. And so, but I could never get them to just kind of like, ratchet it down. It would always be like, yes, I got to do something with this. And for me, I made a game out of it. Like I'd be turning around like, he'll say something and I'll go like this. Like if it's to my brother and my sister, I'll be like, zing. Like, gotcha. And rather than them thinking it's funny or identifying it like that,
hey, but it is.
Like, yo, quit. This is what he does. So yeah, it's kind of crazy the way that stuff works, right? It's kind of bizarre. So anyway, I'm glad you have that relationship with your mom. Yes. Now, okay, I'm recognizing that. Okay. I see that my screen is not doing anything over here, so I didn't know if maybe if maybe I needed to cut my phone on. Okay. So let me see what else. I gotta see your fence.
Things first.
All right, huh?
I was cleaning my glasses and I'm like, I just made things worse.
Yeah,
I don't have a cleaning wipe. I'm using my spray in my shirt, which is probably not the smartest.
Your shirt is camouflage, isn't it?
It is. I didn't have time to change, y'all. I
have some shorts that I've been looking for. Camouflage. I got some camouflage shorts. And
Sam's Club, but you don't shop there for nothing but tires.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah. Okay. Point taken.
Was that a zing? No.
It's all good. Look, I'm zinger proof. I try to be, although you see me, sometimes I get a little activated on here, right? There's that just tap on me. But it's not that it's personal. It's that it is like when that guy wrote that stuff about silence and sins and all of that stuff. It's like, I'm gonna be a warrior, darn it. I gotta cut this down.
Right.
So it's not that I'm taking it personal, but I I don't like when we try to, get back there, get down, get in that box. But I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm busy trying to show people how great they are, rather than have somebody trying to put us back in our boxes. So amen. Anyway, so thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad to see you. I missed you.
I am too. I listened yesterday. Oh man, I don't even want to talk about the frustration, but I miss being on yesterday. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I certainly, sometimes I think about, even like I was talking about Rhonda before I came on here. And I don't know if it was yesterday or Friday morning, but I went on after she had been on almost 10 minutes. I went on and it seemed like she had been sitting there talking by herself for 10
It
minutes.
was she and I.
No, I don't think that was the day, because I saw you the day that I went on.
Okay.
I think it was another day that she was on there for quite a while by herself. And so sometimes I just try to go on just in case. And yeah, and so then it was like, okay, I recognize that sometimes that may seem like it's really daunting when you feel like you're doing something, and it's a different kind of energy when nobody is watching,
right? Yes.
And so yesterday it was like, I was just kind of like, okay, Stephanie is not here today. It's cool. And I just kind of like, did my thing. And so today I was like, well, if she's here, great. If she's not, most of this stuff was going to be stuff that I was going to read through, because it is so much info. This is such a dense section. So I'm on page 150, and the shame about sexuality, that first full paragraph right there. And so 150 and 151 is really a dense, because it, like yesterday when I was talking about the rape, and because that had happened to me, it was one of those things where I was just trying to move through it without bringing a lot of emotionality in it. I don't know that I still get emotional, but I do get, what's the word? Yeah, I got that warrior kind of thing. Like, let me put my cape on and my sword and tell you about how I feel about this. Like,
I wanted to go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I wanted, when I was listening to that yesterday, and I know you had mentioned it, and then I know we talked about something else in this second chakra, and one of the viewers was saying that it made her feel like she was starting to get depressed. And and if I mentioned this already, then forgive me, because I'm going to mention it again, because I know that when certain things that I read like this, I put a note on here that I had to stop. I can feel when certain things are triggering for me. And I can also tell whenever I'm reading something and I can't like read it to the next chapter, that something is happening for me. It's arrested development. I like that language. That happens. And so one of the things that you can always do is, don't forget the lavender oils and the orange oils, and inhaling and rubbing and bringing that experience to yourself to wake you up, because the brain wants to go back to sleep. When it revisits a trauma, it wants to go back to sleep, or it wants to fight, or it wants to run away, or just stand in a freeze. Or when you're starting to feel those type of things, go get an ice pack and put it behind your neck, and say a mantra or say an affirmation, because this stuff will trigger you. And if you practice things to avoid the onset of depressive moods, use those tools. That's when you use them, not just in a therapy session, good therapist with how you doing that going home anyway, but use the tools because it shows up in stuff like this. And sometimes people be like, I never got through that book. I remember the first time I read Woman Thou Art Loose. I think I read the first 2 chapters and I just shut the book. And I did not open it again until maybe a year and a half later, because it was very triggering. And I didn't know nothing about triggers then. I was, wasn't doing this kind of work. But so even in this, gazillion years later, when I read things like this, I get triggered, but not triggered for me. I get triggered now for people of color and the whole, when this just bothers me when I look at it from a systemic place. It's just like, wow, this answers so many questions. I can no longer, drive in certain areas of town and be in a space, I shouldn't have been anyway, but be in a space of judgment, because I understand that energy does everything. And if you ain't got no energy, you can't do nothing.
Right. Oh, right. And sometimes, it's really interesting because we have learned to blame the victim in a lot of regards, and rather than look at it in context.
Even that statement of get over it, you're not over it yet, that's blaming.
Yeah.
So yes, I've been guilty of that, not with rape and sex, but just why are we living like this? Why we have to turn our neighborhoods into such a, just the language, just the energy. I apologize, like in public.
The other night I was in the bed, I had just got to sleep, and somebody started blasting their music on the other street. And that brother probably didn't even have that volume all the way up. He just probably had it, but it came into my house as if it was somebody just set a boombox in my window. And I was up and I was shouting out the window. And had I not had on the little teddy, I would have walked over there. But it was down, I know where the house is, but it was like 4 houses down on the other block. And I'm like thinking, why you gotta be so doggone disrespectful? It is after 11 o'clock, people trying to sleep. I'm yelling like in between the beats. And I'm just thinking, like, how inconsiderate. Or the people who drive the dirt bikes down the street and feel like they're entitled to have
an hour. Right.
Well, they have a caravan going and they will block traffic. Like,
yes, they do.
Like they get up there and somebody will pull right in front of the lane that's supposed to cross and block all the traffic, like they entitled to that. I just like, my people, what is wrong with y'all?
They're not connected.
Where your mama at? Yeah, where your mama at that teaches you better? That's like a
energy. Oh my.
Yeah, that's like somebody's mother saw them on TV down at a protest, and she went down there to that protest and told them, "Get your ass home." I was like, where those mamas at? Because that was how my mother would check you where you were. Don't, and not saying, because I'm sure she wasn't trying to say, don't protest. I'm sure that's not it. But if I told your ass not to leave here, or if I said to you that it's going to be dangerous down there, if I told you specifically, oh, she went down there, and they caught it on tape and put it like it went viral, and it's like, don't embarrass that boy like that, right? But sometimes, I don't even know. Yeah, I could go on about that.
Yeah, so it was an awakening for me, because it was so triggering. And then and so I wanted to mention that if it's triggering for me, for people who are actually experiencing it and are still doing their work or haven't done their work, there are things that you can do to bring that anxiety down, take care of yourself, nurture yourself, love yourself, and this information, and don't look away, but, do some of your work, whatever you've been trained to do to help minimize anxiety and the onset of depressive moods.
Yeah, so you know what, I will, because I do have some citrus oils, so maybe I will bring in some citrus oils in here, and because sometimes I do, I don't have that same feeling about this stuff that I used to. I mean, this used to be something that would really trigger me. However, now I am so, I got to the point where I shared from a standpoint that if I can share what I have experienced and my road to healing from it, and in a sense, and know that healing is possible, I always want to be in that space where I serve as a witness for others, right? So that to me is good. And it gives it purpose. It gives my experience purpose. So I'm going to I'm gonna do a little reading, and stop. We can interject. You can interrupt me, but I'm going to kind of push through this because I could stay on these 2 pages for a month.
I know.
So it says shame about sexuality carries over into shame about sexual diseases like syphilis, herpes, and AIDS, right? Those in particular, I think, especially with herpes or AIDS, is not something that is easily cured. So it becomes a part of what you have to talk about or what you have to do. Inevitably, people with sexually transmitted disease feel compelled to offer a profile of their personal sexual history to prevent the inference that illness was picked up through indiscriminate sexual encounters. And so it is, a lot of people I know have a lot of fear if you've got herpes, and a lot of people have herpes. But there is this fear that once I disclose this to you, I will be rejected, which will further be traumatic and all of that stuff. And so people have, that becomes this like open wound that people kind of re-experience all over again. And you don't want to, and there's this thing, because we value that good girl kind of thing, that good girl designation. And so a lot of times people don't want to have those conversations, or they're reticent about having that conversation. So criminal sexual violations, rape, incest, and child molesting are more than physical violations. They are also energy violations. One can rape someone's energy field with verbal abuse or destructive, disempowering attitudes. Mm-hmm. Now, let me talk about that for a minute. Because a lot of times we think that we are not, people want to categorize verbal abuse or disempowering attitudes or destructive type of attitudes. And, she gets into that here a bit. But when you think about verbal abuse, we think, oh, well, first off, we see it a lot in our community, mm-hmm. more than I care to, and to little kids. We see it with little kids as well as between siblings. Mm-hmm. sometimes verbal abuse is something as simple as saying, "You so stupid."
Mm-hmm.
And while I don't know what planet one would have to be on to think that that is acceptable language,
Or even shut down anybody trying to hear what you're talking about. That's abuse.
yes,
Shut up.
yes,
Nobody trying to hear what you talk about. Go somewhere and sit down.
yes,
That's abuse.
yes. Thank you. That and because we think it's the words around it, because it's not a curse word, people don't define it as that. But it is hurtful.
Mm-hmm.
It is yes, it's destructive.
Well, it changes a child's so you imagine how devastating it was for me to get this degree. That's why I said I spent $70,000 in therapy, because my firstborn, I had a different parenting experience than I did with my second. And to know that every time that you shut a child down, you are altering their personality.
Mm-hmm.
So who they were going to be or could be or become, any type of damaging language or an impact to their bodies that is not in love, alters a personality. That was like, whoo, for me. Like, oh, wow.
Right.
Because I was, even though I was always a talker to my kid, I was always, not always, but I oftentimes was like, you are not going to the bathroom again. You are not, instead of explaining to him, trying to hear what he had to say, I would shut it down. No, we're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Time to go to bed. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember a soft time when it was time to go to bed, when he got out the bed and was like, I want such and such and such. And I think about it now, I would never do that to my granddaughter. And I didn't do it to little George. But with that firstborn, I would shut that down. And he's so soft spoken, my firstborn. He's just, and I think about how I was my mama.
Okay. A lot of times we do, and that's one of the sad things too, is that sometimes we do what it is that we saw done, because it was okay for me. I turned out okay. And so therefore, we think that it's okay with our own children.
Or I took no thought.
Okay.
I took no thought.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really interesting when we see some of these things and our attitude around it. The attitude.
You getting downloads?
Well, I am. So part of it is that I'm doing, I'm writing essays around stuff like this as it comes up. And so I just thought to myself about, so sometimes I am in here and I'm talking and I don't always know who can hear me. I know that the people online can hear me, but it's also sometimes that I've got other folks that could hear me. So I have people in my neighborhood who I talk to who are fond of using what we call the N word. Mm-hmm. And there is a part of me that has wanted to ask the question, like, is that like all people, or is that certain people, or is it, and so I don't always understand when you use that word about in general, if it then applies to anyone of color, or if it's just certain people of color, and so when we talk about this idea of verbal abuse and the use of words and how those things come across, I'm quick to say, well, well, that ain't everybody. That's, I get that we see it from our perspective or what we have seen. But the other part of that is that like somebody was saying to me the other day about, well, what did he say? He was just trying to make it seem like, well, I don't do that to this, and I don't do that in this situation. And I was like, you know what? The only thing I know about is my experience, right? And so if my experience has been A, B, and C, right? If this was my experience, I can't speak to somebody else's experience because I've just been me. I'm experiencing this through my eyes. I don't know about anybody else. So I know that when I approach with an open heart. I mean you well. I can't speak for what everybody else does. And I don't change according to people. So yesterday I went to Mark's, one of my favorite places to go and shop for some reason. And the guy behind the counter, I was returning something. And when I put it up on the counter, it was almost like I got an immediate attitude from him. To which I was like thinking like, and so I gave him the receipt, and then he says, I need to see some ID. And I was thinking, okay, I felt the edge in his voice. And I handed him my ID, like, certainly. And I wanted to say to him, can I have a little less attitude? But because he actually had somebody else standing behind there with him, I didn't say anything about his attitude. I just went ahead and went through the motions. Well, what's wrong with this? I said, nothing's wrong with it. I just don't want it. Right? It was the color. I didn't like the color, but I just didn't want it. Right? I bought it, and that's one of the things when I buy something, I know I can return it if I get it home and it doesn't necessarily work for me. I can return it. So nothing was wrong with it. And so it was like just this whole attitudinal thing, and I was thinking to myself like, what is this about, right? And so what I know is that in our community, we have been conditioned to automatically categorize people or think about our people in negative ways, to think that somehow we trying to get over or run a scam or this, that. And I'm like, I want to say everybody ain't out here trying to get one over on you. Right. Everybody out here is not in a space where we're stuck in survival mode.
But a lot of people are, and so we're either projecting what we are experiencing onto other people, or we're saying yes when we really want to say no, or we're saying no where we really want to say yes.
So and so that's one of the things that I was trying to impress upon my neighbor is that we have to understand that people are busy trying to survive, and they've done what it takes to survive.
Yes.
Just because we're in survival mode doesn't mean that that there is not inherent goodness in us, right?
Yes.
But and so I was trying to say that there is something very different if I feel as if you're taking something out of my pocket, as opposed to if I'm working for, say for instance, I'm working for an insurance company. I'm gonna be like, oh, right, you come into me, and I'm gonna say, well, not only can you get this, but did you know you can have that? And did you know that this is available to you? And did you know? And I'm gonna sit there and try to throw everything at you that you could possibly get for free, because that's that. because I want you to above all prosper, right? Be healthy and prosper. But now if that was actually coming out of my pocket, I don't know. I'd be like, do you really need that? If I'm looking at, but that's how a lot of times we're working. We're working like we're getting something out of a pie, and that if you get a quarter of the pie, that only leaves me with so much pie, because I realize that this pie has got to be split so many ways. It's kind of like I was watching that show High on the Hog, which I loved.
I know, right? I gotta catch up.
Yeah. And so one of the things that they were talking about is that back in slavery days, all the Black folks got was what the white folks didn't want. So that's why pig feet became a thing, right? Because you're gonna give me the pig feet, I'm about to make something up out of these pig feet, right? You're gonna give me the pig's head. We got hard cheese. Yeah. You gonna give me
chicken wings?
Yes. We getting your throwaway parts, right? The stuff that you thought, I'm not having that. You gonna give us the waste. We gonna make chitlins out of that stuff, right? And all of a sudden now, it's like
gourmet.
Yes. Because whatever it is, I
feel about us, period.
Yes, we about to make it jazzy. We about to make it good. And so whatever that may be, that's how our folks operate. So you give us lemons, we gonna make lemonade. Darn it.
Gotta figure it out. And if we've lost that magic, that's the work that has to be done. That's the work that has to be done. That's the discovery piece. And it's the same as healing from all of these other things. The shame, healing from, because what came with that jazziness too was this sense of competition and all the other languages that were spoken in our households about them and us. And so us having to change those narratives and those paradigms, just like someone that's surviving rape, molestation, there's information that has to be rerouted side of us. And for the intention, to go back to the book, for the intention, so that we don't have dis-ease in our body, and so that we can have energy, so that we can keep moving up the chakras and be in balance.
Right.
Yeah, but this is good.
So Bill, she goes on, Bill, a workshop participant, had a relationship with his father that exemplifies emotional violation or attitudinal rape. Bill's father continually belittled him as he was growing up, saying he would never amount to anything in this life. Bill spent years trying to prove his father wrong, but never succeeded. When his father died, never having retracted his condemnation, Bill was emotionally paralyzed. He suffered from chronic depression, could not keep a job, and was impotent. Although Bill's father had derogated his son's potency in the material world, not his sexuality, financial productivity and sexuality are both second chakra energies and are intimately linked. So rape and incest of an energy field are motivated by the desire to cripple a person's ability to be independent and to thrive outside of the control of another person. Sexual organs warehouse the damage inflicted by these negative beliefs and actions. So let me read on. Numerous people who suffer from sexual problems ranging from impotence to infertility to reproductive organ cancer remember having been constantly criticized about their professional skills, ambitions, and accomplishments, as well as their physical appearance.
Mm-hmm.
In effect, their parents raped their children, stripping them of personal power that they needed for health and success. So I remember I used to publish a newsletter a long time ago. And I had an organization that I had put together, and I was sending out a newsletter on a regular basis. This was when we were still doing snail mail. It wasn't even, that's how long ago it was. And I had this I thought it was a neat little newsletter. And one day I let my brother, the one who passed, I let my brother read it. And, he used to brag on this idea that he was a bookworm. He was always reading something. But his favorite book was Charlotte's Web, whatever. But he also loved those Carlos Castaneda books. But he had, he would pride himself on the fact that he read quite a bit. And so when he read my newsletter, he took it and he threw it across the table and he says, "You ain't no writer." And girl, I remember thinking like, oh, who the heck are you, right? What have you written? I read every day. I read all the time. I know good writing when I read good writing, and you ain't no writer. And I remember as that particular day, I started a mantra with myself, like, saying to myself, like, I am a writer. This is not going to affect me. This is not going, this is not going to define me. This is not going, and I remember just kind of like trying to reaffirm myself in my own mind, because what happens a lot of times is when we receive criticisms like that, that becomes a block. Mm-hmm. And anytime we start to do something, that resurfaces a lot of times to in an effort to block the progress. And so when we allow those things to block us or to continue to inform how we show up at the page or at the microphone or in the spaces that matter, those types of things can be very impactful. And so I realized it at the time, and I was like realizing it in the sense that, yeah, this is not going to be, I am not going to define myself through this, not through that moment.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And it happens, it's so subtle, especially when the parent-child relationship, that's, the family dynamics, family systems, mm-hmm. we impact children and our families more than we realize. We've never been taught how important that tribal connection and how influential that tribal connection is, and the power and responsibility we have mm-hmm. to one another in that tribe, in that family of origin. Mm-hmm. There's so much. I know Iyanla Vanzant talks about pathologies. That's a lot. And so things are just, if I can't give a compliment, or I've never had compliments given to me, mm-hmm. to offer one out would be a challenge.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah, especially when you think that, because sometimes people have this, especially when you're not a person that compliments people. Sometimes you thinking that I don't want to give them a big head. I don't
want to get too big. What is that? Just saying it out my mouth. I'm like, what? Huh?
Yeah. It's and now I am a person that you know, I'm always saying that a compliment is a free gift that you can give somebody, and
Yeah.
sometimes it can lift their whole day, if not their whole week or month. A well-placed, honest compliment
Right.
is worth its weight in gold.
So true. It's so true.
Yeah,
It's so true. But
yeah,
yeah, that, and I love that they said their parents rape their children, stripping them of personal power they need for health and success.
right, right, right. And if we could just, I mean, if
Woo!
we could just get that in our community, just grab onto that. And then, you know, sometimes, and sometimes I don't know if this how it works, but I know that miracles take place retroactively. This guy, Bill's father, died without ever retracting his statement, which paralyzed
Mhm.
Bill, you know, and and my I will tell you that my brother's life, when my dad finally passed, my brother's life drastically changed for the worse. I mean,
Mhm.
it was just like a downhill spiral. And yeah, it was like a downhill spiral. And I won't even go into all of that, but it was. And I can't say that it didn't go without everybody noticing yeah, how that shift occurred. So energy violations of this type may be even more common than physical rape and incest. And I would say that they are, because a lot of times we think nothing of it. When rape and incest are defined in energy terms, a violation of energy, men and women in equal numbers admit to having been violated. When I asked workshop participants, how many of you have felt your dignity or your self-esteem was raped within your working or living environment, almost everyone holds up their hands. But when I asked how many of you are or have been energy rapists, the
Hmm.
response, not surprisingly, is a little more restricted. So it's easy to know when it's done to you, right? Because you feel it in your body and your bones. It's like, ouch. We feel that sting, right? And sometimes no matter whether you feel as if you are well intended or not, it stings just as much. So we know that that kind of stuff happens. But then when you say how many of you are or have been energy rapists, most people don't want to admit to that. So,
And I'll, be gracious to say maybe people don't understand that it's happening in that manner, like the impact of it. As she goes on to explain, a little bit more about it, but I don't know if people understand that they are pulling somebody's energy away when they have, criticisms, even on the inside of yourself. Even like I just explained to you about my mom this morning. I could tell that, oh, let me hurry up and get out of here because she is working her hard to just keep whatever she wanted to say or opinions or whatever. I could feel it wasn't like, oh, yeah, Steph, come on. It wasn't that. I could feel that wasn't coming towards me. And
yeah,
so it was not that I don't know what she was thinking, but I could tell she had to do work to keep that
right.
in there. And I could feel that. I could feel that. And in the past, I'd be like, is everything okay, Mom? You want this? Yeah, I don't care like that today. But when I feel the negative energy pull, that pull
Mm-hmm.
away, and it would, whatever she had in her mind about how I was doing, whatever, it wasn't because I was doing something wrong. It was just a preference. You know what I mean? Like for her. So I don't want it to be understood that she was being negative towards me. It's just that it took her energy to be like, I'm gonna let Steph just do it her way and I can do it later. But that negative energy it's still what it is. It's
Right.
not a
Right.
compliment. It's not an attaboy.
Right. It's interesting because there are times when I know that people have a resistance to, say for instance, and what they say is I want it done. If I ask you to do something, I want it done now. I don't want to have to wait on it. That's kind of like the dynamics that they use. And so my dad would ask, can you look up the how much it would cost me to fly to Mississippi? And then if then he would turn around and he would ask somebody else to do it. And then he would ask another person to do it. And we all get frustrated because, like, if you asked me to do it and I said I would do it, I was doing it, right? Why do I turn around and I get here and now you got so and so doing it, right? And so it would be so infuriating when, say for instance, because it didn't happen in the time frame that he wanted it, that's like another neighbor of mine's, she wanted she wanted her rose bush cut back, and so she asked another neighbor, and he said, okay, I'll do it, but he works during the week. And so when he went to do it yesterday, he was like, oh,
Right.
somebody already cut the thing down. And she was like, well, I wanted it cut down. And he was like, well, I told you I would do it. No, I wasn't waiting. I asked you to cut it down and blah, 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 blah. Now, my nephew ended up cutting another neighbor's yard because when she asked me about cutting her grass, I was like, I said, your landlord sends somebody over here to cut their grass. They'll be over here. And she was like, I'm not waiting on that. Okay, but I can get my nephew to cut it, but not for free, kind of thing. So, and she was like, we gonna just take it off the rent. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Not my issue, but
right.
I'll have them cut it. But that becomes the excuse for, I need it done when I need it done, or whatever the case may be, which okay, I'd be like, okay, if okay, right.
Yeah, I just don't think that people understand. Well, I know we don't understand. Yeah, how
Energy
powerful
violations.
energy.
Yes.
Yeah, energy.
Yes.
How it violate. It's just, yeah. Wake up.
So, she goes on to say, yet when the physical talents of another person intimidates us, we either, well, you know what? I'm kind of curious. So okay, so wait a minute. Here's what I'm thinking, Stephanie. I don't necessarily see that we have anybody online at the moment watching. That's my thing. Or I don't exactly see that. I could be wrong. Somebody else could be watching. But I was like thinking to myself, maybe we could put a bookmark in this because I think this is a really good section. We could put a bookmark in it right here and then do this tomorrow.
Okay.
Pick this up tomorrow and yeah, because
date anyway. So I got a little date this morning. So.
Oh, do you? Nice.
It's a golf course, but still, it's a date nonetheless.
Okay, very nice.
Right? Nice. I'm excited a little bit. A little.
Good. Okay, good.
Perfect timing.
And you got some skills, huh?
But they don't either, so it'll be
Okay.
fun.
My,
Yeah,
my
they're
brother might be on the golf course, right?
really
Yeah, he was out there yesterday morning, and he's been taking his son out. Um,
nice.
yeah, yeah. Destin is in town, and his son DJ actually had, won some prizes and was pretty big at one time for his golf game, but he has really not kind of pursued that after.
Yeah, my kids didn't
So,
either.
yeah.
They didn't. I say I'm gonna stop saying it after today. But I'm like, I could have spent that money on myself because I always wanted to, to play. My father and grandfather always, and I was just, allowed to sit on the cart. I didn't pay attention
Okay.
until the boys started playing golf, specifically Georgie. But yeah, so I'm kudos to anybody that gets to learn this young because from what I'm being told, it takes many, many years to get good. So,
Okay.
and so by the time I'm about 80, I'll probably be ready to play with something.
Yeah. So he takes his son out every morning that he is off and able. They go out and play golf early on, and yeah. So and I mean, there's so much action that happens on the golf course, so that's a beautiful thing.
I would love to participate in a fundraiser. I used to facilitate or do some development for nonprofits with fundraisers, but I could never participate in the game even then. But I've always, it's funny because life is like that. What you think about starts to find its way to you, and so now I'm doing it. But I remember having a mad desire when I would do those fundraising events and, I couldn't participate.
Right. So my organization, the Black Journalists Association, Greater Cleveland Association of Black Journalists, we've been talking about having a golf fundraiser. That's one of the projects that we have been talking about for a bit. And I think that they are going to start the planning on that for August. So I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
I'll keep you
posted. To help on the committee.
You want to help on the committee?
I will help. I'm not golfing with anybody other than somebody who says I'm not a good golfer either. Come on, let's just go and hang out and golf.
Well, I think that
because you got to have patience. It takes me 50 shots to get to one hole. I'm holding up everybody. Like, no, not doing that. Like, no, not right now. No.
Yeah, when we were in Miami, my brother was saying, he was like, I knew it was going to be expensive when we was going to that golf course. He said, but when they told me 219, he was like, I almost fell over. And I was like, for a morning of golf? I was like, are you kidding? Like,
wow.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but I definitely will help with something like that. Only be, time, allowing, I would definitely help with. I love those type of fundraisers. It's a really great experience. It's a great experience.
Mm-hmm. What other kind of fundraising stuff have you done?
I love Martini Luge's fundraiser. It's when you have a whole martini bar and they have like the cosmopolitans running out of like this ice sculpture. Done that like 4 times. And then you auction off big items, big ticket items. And so it's an auction, but people are drinking. And so you make more money with it, alcohol, And so those are always been my favorite. I love to go to them and I love to help with the, soliciting and stuff like that for fundraising. So those are fun. I like to walk around the room and just, I don't know. I love fundraisers. I'm sure my ex used to be like, you pay $60 for that bracelet. bracelet that broke apart. I'm still holding it in the box right now. But
my.
I just, yeah, it's just cool. It's just
So,
fun.
so I am about to, my brother is running for re-election.
Okay.
And so we are about to put on a fundraiser for him. And then my organization, we do fundraising for them. So I don't have that. Ooh, I just love fundraising. I don't have that. That one show has me kind of, the woman in that show has me kind of thinking that, I think it's called um, Jenny and her mama. It's a Netflix show.
Oh, okay.
And so
Time to watch TV. I need to get your schedule.
oh, girl, I don't have time to, I haven't watched TV and I don't know how long, but when I get in my sauna, I turn it.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, that's a good
so
thing.
I try to watch shows that I can watch in their completion while I'm sitting in the sauna.
That's good. That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
So yeah, I don't get a chance to watch TV that much. As a matter of fact, note to self, get in the sauna tonight. When I get back home, I need to get my butt in that sauna. So I'm glad I mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, I got all of that stuff to do as far as as far as the fundraising stuff is concerned. So
yeah. So if time permits, definitely I'll see how I can be a blessing or a help,
thank you.
But definitely love to attend, love to
Yeah.
and help facilitate the actual event, whatever. So
Yeah.
let me know.
Yeah. I don't know that you've met that brother, Kevin.
I don't know. He goes to church?
Uh, well, he came up there to the church, but he's only been there once.
Oh, okay. So maybe
Yeah. So yeah, Anyway, I gotta drop by your house at some point. I meant to just drop by there and drop those microphone covers off.
Oh yeah, we can exchange some seeds too.
Oh,
yeah, you got to let them dry out still. They're not
okay.
dry, but I got kale, collards, and mustard.
Okay. Yeah, girl, I just bought some kale seeds.
Oh, but I think these have to dry though. So
Okay, they may have to.
yeah.
And I have learned how to put those things in one of those paper things, and sometimes I just store them in my garage because some of them have to freeze actually. I've
Oh,
had seeds that needed to freeze and thaw. So
cool. I don't know nothing about that. I just know I cut them and hung them up for my mother and labeled them. So
oh, cool. Okay. Well, and I'm not exactly sure if that's happening today, but since now that I know where you are, I could just leave it somewhere there and then I'll just let you know.
okay, that'll work. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
Have a great Sunday. See you at 1.
Yes, I will be on at 1.
All right.
All right.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. See ya.